Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And well, our guest doesn't really even need an introduction because she's been on the podcast before, Jodi Miller. She's coming back on. Last time we talked to her, it was about a year and a half ago, but she's on here again to give us an update on what she's been up to. And also, the coronavirus, if anyone's listening to it now, this will probably be out like a week after we talk, but we are now in the throes of the quarantine where everyone is locked up and in their homes and everyone's, just even today in Minnesota, or I think it was 2 days ago, where the gyms all officially shut down. So people are looking for ways to stay in shape, so we can talk a little bit about that. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Jody, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. So first of all, I like to start things out on a little more of a positive note. What is the weather like where you're currently at right now?
Well, it's changing every hour on the hour, basically. I mean, it is Texas. So, if you don't like the weather, stick around, it'll change. So right now it's sunny, humid. It's been raining. It's in the 70s, but it's going to drop to the 50s tomorrow and the next day. Then it's going to be in the 80s. It's like, the sky is PMSing. It's been raining a lot. So, speaking about home workouts, yes, a lot of the gyms, I think, today is the final nail in gyms coffins. And, I actually made a decision to not go to the gym the last couple of days. My apartment complex closed the fitness centers 2 mornings ago. And I trained legs there before they closed at like 8 a.m. And I had already had in my head, okay, that's my last, like, in with gym equipment, like major gym equipment workout. And yesterday was supposed to be a rest day, and I was debating, like, should I go in? Should I, like, what does it say about me if I don't take advantage of this one more day? But one of the things, I have not competed since we last talked. I had made a decision to step away for a while, take a hiatus. I have to say, last year and this year, this is a good time to take a hiatus. I planned that pretty well. But I did finally get my mental state in a mode of not feeling like my workouts are like Armageddon. Like, oh my gosh, I only have 10 more back workouts before the show comes. I don't know if I can fit in everything. And then you're shoving everything. It's almost like you hoard exercises and hoard workouts going into a show. And I've gotten over that. It's taken a really, really long time to understand, no, I'm living life and I'm shaping my body the way I want it to be. And I'm not on a deadline. Except in life, I want to look a certain way while I'm living before I die, which I think I'm like halfway there now because I'll be 48 this year. So, um, but yeah, I kind of went back and forth, and I finally decided, I just decided, my civic duty is to make sure that I'm not contributing to the problem. Just because I feel fine, these lockdowns are not for the healthy people. They're not for the people who have the strong immune systems. It's to ensure that our hospitals don't get clogged when the people who do have the issues end up contracting the virus. So it's to kind of even things out, and it's hard. What I do for the majority of my income is it's stopped.
Oh, well, hey. Well, I'm going to be completely honest with anyone. I haven't admitted this to anyone except a few friends, but I never got tested or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure that I still might have, because I did actually get tested yesterday to see if I still had the coronavirus. So what happened was, I was at a casino I think it was about 2 weeks ago that I went to a casino, and because they're really, really big here. I live about 5 miles away from an Indian reservation, and Native Americans, that's why the gambling age is about 18 here. So it's really huge part of the culture here. So I was at a casino, and normally, that's the one time I go out when it's not for work or anything. So I went there, and about, 4 or 5 days later, I think it was last Monday, I started to feel kind of funny. And then the next day after that, I was having a cough, like an uncontrollable cough, and I had a fever, I think, of 102, and I was just, dead sweating. And that lasted for 3-4 days where I was just bedridden, just coughing, just fever. And then when I finally looked up the symptoms for coronavirus, I was like, yeah, they're okay. I definitely need it. I definitely probably had this because and I had trouble breathing too. So the fever broke on Saturday night. And then Sunday morning, I started to feel a little bit better. And then Monday, I was feeling, back to form. And then I'd messaged you last week about coming on. So I told myself, I was like, hopefully I'm free of this so we can do this. So it's been, 4 days since I've had any symptoms. So I feel perfectly normal now, but I went in to get tested and they said they'd inform me either by tonight or tomorrow morning if I'm still carrying it or not. So, I still have my meals delivered at the door of my room, and I'm still, really self-quarantining and making sure that, I get all this cleaned up once I finally get the clean bill of health. So for anyone out there, yeah, it's not a thing to really mess around with, because I know a lot of people are saying, especially people my age, I'm 25, where there's like, oh, who cares if I get it? It's not going to kill me. It's like, yeah, even if it doesn't kill you, it still sucks. It's still not a fun thing to have. I mean, you don't willingly want to give yourself this, and you don't know who you're going to pass it on to. I mean, I have two parents that are both about to turn 60, and I do not want them to get infected with this, because who knows what that could do to them. So yeah, honestly, everyone self-quarantine, because I saw that stupid video of those kids down in Florida who were talking about like, oh, if I get the coronavirus, I get the coronavirus. And it's like, I mean, it's like, now, thankfully, I wasn't interviewed when I was 18 or 21, because, I'd probably be just about as stupid as some of them are. But still, it's like, come on. So that's my coronavirus story. And yeah, it's nothing to be messed around with, people. And it's just, take this seriously. I know, especially a lot of people aren't taking this as seriously as they should. So that's my warning out there. Everyone's, you have to take this seriously.
Yeah, and that's like anything. It's like when we get in our car, we don't know. It doesn't mean that we have to live our lives in fear, but this is something that the it is spreading so quickly. Imagine if we weren't to do this, and how much worse it would be. And of course, hindsight is always going to be, no pun intended, 2020. um, but you know, we just kind of have to go with it. So you can't change it. You cannot. So that was something that I did my very first IGTV a couple of days ago. And one of the things that I talked about, because one thing I'm concerned about are people. I deal with anxiety and depression. I'm pretty open about it.
Same here. Yep.
Jim is my therapist. Now I do work with a therapist. I went on to BetterHelp and work with an online therapist. I have to say it's one of the best decisions. That is probably I've done therapy my entire life. Welcome to dysfunction. And this has to be one of the best experiences with a therapist I've had, except for one therapist in college that helped me reach a turning point. And they're working with their people in terms of helping people so that you're not paying during this time too. They're wonderful. On my Instagram, I'll put up a link so that people can get a free week. I worry about. I don't think enough is being talked about people's mental health. If we thought that we were having violence and shootings before, I do worry about when you're cooped up and temperatures are rising. You go a little stir crazy, or you start to question things, or you're not in touch with reality. I mean, think about it. A lot of people are working from home, but a lot of people from the service industry can't do that, and are, maybe they're disappearing into Netflix series or social media, or whatever else, video games and things. So I do recommend picking up a hobby that isn't. It's tough, but you got to put your phone away for certain times of the day. So pick up a hobby, whether it's learning a new sport that you can learn through YouTube, or learning or reading, or all sorts of things. Learn a new language. All sorts of things that are out there in order to help you feel like you have control over the situation. Because as soon as what leads to anxiety is feeling like you don't have control. And so I just, even before all of this hit, or hit really badly for us in the US, I came up with a mantra for myself of, whatever you do, do it well. So that I'm not putting pressure on myself of what I'm doing, but just whatever I'm doing, I obviously chose to do it. I'm in charge of my life. somebody didn't hold a gun to my head and say, you have to watch this Netflix series. You have to watch Breaking Bad for the third time in 3 years. So, but if I'm going to choose to do that, then go into it and do it well. It is how I work with clients and tell them, if they say I messed up on the diet, or I had a cheat meal and I wasn't supposed to, or I ate more. I'm like, did you enjoy it? I hope you enjoyed it, because if you put a guilt trip on it, then you really wasted it. So whatever you do it well. Now, hopefully, you choose some other things that are a little more useful than watching Breaking Bad 3 times. But yeah, that's I think that may help some people if they start to get like panicky or feel anxiety or start to get down in the dumps. Just ask yourself, am I, whatever I'm doing right now, am I okay with it? And am I doing it well?
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, a lot of times I've never heard anything so far talked about people's mental state too, because yeah, you're cooped up, you're locked up. I mean, if a lot of people that like I have friends my age that are living in apartments where it's like, yeah, you can't really go outside for that. Like I'm lucky where I have a backyard that I could at least go out and do stuff once I get my clean bill of health to go out again. But you had a few days warning before you know that the gyms are probably going to shut down. Did you have a contingency plan set in place on how you were going to still work out? Did you already, set things up a few days ahead of time before so that you knew how you would be able to maintain things? Because these gyms, I mean, who knows how long they might be closed? They might be closed for, up to 2 to 3 months. Who knows?
I my contingency plan was my apartment fitness center. I really did not think that they were going to close it. It is a full gym. There's never any more than typically 10 people in the gym at any one given time. And I had already started, I use it regularly for cardio and for sometimes when I don't want to go to a regular gym, I don't feel like driving or whatever, because I can just walk down there. And I really, what kind of led to my breaking point a bit was getting the email the night before, and it was late. I got the email so late that they were closing it the next morning at 8 a.m. And I was just going, oh my gosh, now what do I do? How do I mean, my biggest thing was leg training. I mean, if I'm on the belt squat with, you know, um, 245s on each side. First of all, you can't you can't buy a belt squat for your apartment. I live in an apartment. Also, or a pendulum squat or leg press or hack squat or leg extension. So to help me out of that panic, it was just like, okay, what I've been doing this a long time. What am I able to do? And my legs are never going to be small. So actually, I have to make sure that my diet isn't going off the rails. You have control over that. So I think that when we look at, okay, well, we don't have the gym, it may be 2 weeks, it may be 2 months. So what can you control? Well, you can control what you put in your mouth, and which is tough when you're cooped up. But if you never buy those things, and then if we start getting limited on how often we can go out, then of course they're making delivery very easy. But I feel like me having competed for so long, and then me having also taken a hiatus, and I'm just living. I think that helped me to better process this. If I was coming out of a show or if I was prepping for a show, I really, wow, I feel so. I completely and 100% agree. I am so proud of the IFBB and MPC for stepping up and saying we're stopping shows across the board, because it just wouldn't be it wouldn't be fair to continue having shows in some places and not other places. And some people can go to national level shows because they qualified, and others couldn't because they didn't have access. And then a point system for the Olympia. So there's all sorts of other things besides health that made that decision. I applaud that decision 100%. I still feel so badly for people who are in prep. And I mean, I have a client who she was getting ready for the Pittsburgh show. She was going to do the amateur portion of the Pittsburgh Pro. I did that back in 2003. and got in the top 5. And it's an excellent show to get in front of the national and IFBB judges. So she had actually won the collegiate nationals overall back in 2017 for bikini. So she's been in front of Sandy a bunch of times. I want all of her shows that she chooses at the amateur level to be very smart decisions. So, I was already telling her we have to be prepared. You might not be able to do the show in it, and so keeping an eye on it. But we're still keeping her in prep. I let her have a burger, but we just moved down what show she's going to do. But I think mentally, yes, life comes up. Maybe your job does something, or you have a tragedy in the family. So yes, life happens, but this is like completely out of our control, and we don't even know for how long. So I can't imagine the mental strength that competitors in prep are having to deal with, or competitors who just finished competing and your body is in a pretty, sensitive spot. And then you find out, oh, the gyms are closed. And then you're having all the cravings and everything and having to deal with that and stress. And competitors' immune systems when they're dieting, they're down. So there's so many things that I don't know if people are really, everybody's talking about home workouts. What about, the mental workouts? What about the internal emotional workouts? And a lot of people are also saying it's going to be okay. Look at what you uh, change your wording, change your outlook. But I think that if you are dealing if you've just finished a show, you may be dealing with post a show syndrome, which you do deal with depression after a really, really grueling activity that has your adrenaline levels going up and your hormones all out of whack. I've dealt with it after every single powerlifting meet, after every single major show. So, I hope that competitors coming out of shows go, in the middle of prep are getting the mental health assistance that they need and support, and not just hiding, and using social media to kind of, um, create a fog for themselves, if that makes any sense.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I had a few guests on the last couple of weeks who were getting ready for the Arnold's in Australia, and that got canceled. So they're really just kind of, and I was worried about that too, because everyone knows when you're all that dieted down and you're all depleted, your body is not at that healthy of a state. So, if you get that disease, who knows how that's going to affect you if your body is already at that such of a lean, dieted down look. So that's got to be something that, I mean, they must have been worried about as well. But yeah, I mean, I always just think about too, think about like high school seniors. They're probably going to miss their prom. They're probably going to miss their graduation. So a lot of people are really going to have to adjust to this, because I was asking my parents, has this ever happened in your lifetime? And no, it hasn't. So it's a hard thing for a lot of people to adjust to. But yeah, I agree. It's 100% necessary. And yeah, with competing too, I mean, like we talked about in the last time you were on, I mean, bodybuilding is so much more of a mental sport than it is a physical sport, that a lot of people don't realize that, because I mean, the mental games that your mind plays. And I think, especially being cooped up in your own house with, no other place to work out. I mean, that those mental games are going to probably be a lot harder for so many people. But when you were doing your workout in yesterday, I mean, do you have any idea of how you're going to be able to accomplish this? Like what your days are going to look like working out, or are you just going to take things by ear and just say, oh, hey, if I feel like training something like this today, with at-home workouts, I'll do that?
No, I'm still going to stick with my schedule. I did order. I have 10-pound dumbbells and I have bands. I have a ton of bands. I have little hurdle things. Um, uh, I have all sorts of stuff. For me, in my mind, cardio is the easiest thing to take care of. I mean, honestly, you can put music on and dance for 30 minutes. You can do jump rope. You don't even need a jump rope to do jump rope. You can air jump rope. You can do lunges, you can do body weight squats, but it's the actual weight training that is tough, and bands only go so far. So For upper body, I just decided I had 10-pound dumbbells, but I decided to go ahead and while I didn't want to spend money, it was something I had meant to do like a year or two ago to buy some other dumbbells. So I went ahead. Um, and I got a pair of 20s and a pair of 30s. And I figure 10s, 20s, and 30s. And then I got some ankle and wrist weights. So that'll take care of enough for upper body. I'm not trying to grow I actually downsized my upper body. We can kind of get into that. But, I won't ever step into women's physique again unless it goes back to what it once was. Everybody who knows me and has my best interests at heart, they do say, yes, that I look good no matter what, whether it's off season, in season. I'm not saying that like, oh, I look good all the time, but from what I hear from people, they're like, oh, I always like how you look, but I do think that it was starting to get to be too much. Like you were on the edge of it was too much upper body muscle. And I was really unhappy with the look. We can get into that topic in a bit. But so actually for my upper body, this works out fine. Because if I already skipped some upper body workouts, so it's not a big deal. And then with what I ordered and bands and everything, so like I'll do shoulders tonight, and I'll get a really good shoulder and bicep workout and abs. I bought some at Target for $7. I got these little slider things. You can use washcloths. Washcloths don't move on carpet though, so that was why I got the sliders so that I'm able to, use them on different surfaces. Just round discs that you put your feet on and you can slide. You can do lunges with them, abs, all sorts of stuff. And then I went ahead. It was something that I had really wanted to order about a year and a half ago. I wanted to order it for myself and for my clients. And it's from Booty Sprout. I'm not sponsored by them. But it was something that I had seen before, and it is a hip thrusting a bench with bands, and it comes with 135 pounds worth at 345-pound uh, bands, and then I ordered an extra 70-pound band, and then I also have bands that I can add to it, or I can put a dumbbell on, so I can get upwards of almost 300 pounds for hip thrust, which that is one thing that if you're somebody who has a powerlifting background or strength training background in your lower body, it's the lower body that is really tough to do. So that those were the things that I did. I went ahead yesterday and kind of pulled the gun on that and said I don't really want to spend the money, but I'm going to go ahead and do that because I don't. These are things I wanted anyways. Regardless, it was just something that I procrastinated on and never did because I always had the convenience of gyms. But I got those particular things because even if in 2 weeks they're like, woo, miracle, this is cleared up and the gyms can open again, these are still things that I want to have anyways. So I'm gonna start there and see how it goes. And I don't need my quads bigger. I need them to maintain. So maintaining means okay. So maybe I put those ankle weights on and I run stairs. So I'm in an apartment complex. Actually, today it was raining, but I did cardio indoors. I'm in a 2-story loft. I've lived in this place for like 10 years. And I just run up and down my stairs and dance around and jump around and do plyos and stuff. And then my puppy Lavi, he looks at me strangely and then runs around too and is like, "You need to play with me." And so, and I put music on. There's a lot of stuff that's on YouTube. I think ClassPass has even though they have suspended all of their billing and activity and everything, they still have in their app where you can follow along with online workouts. There's online workouts everywhere. I don't even know that you have to pay for stuff. Like me personally, I am not. I could probably design at home workouts and sell them. It's not my interest. I honestly, I'd rather if I'm going to sit here and do something for income, there's a lot of students that are out of school and you need a tutor. I that is a part-time job of mine anyway. So, I'd rather offer my services for proofreading resumes or proofreading papers, or helping to tutor or whatever it might be. That part, that's where I would look at. So whatever I share on my social media will be just to help people out and kind of make it fun, and yeah. So I'm just this is what I compared on my IGTV video about this. I compared this to, it's like, you find something out and you freak out because it's not that type A personalities, people who like to be in control. You find something out, and most of us in bodybuilding world, like, it's very much like eat your chicken. Well, I don't eat chicken or turkey anymore, but you eat every 2 to 3 hours, and you have to weigh your food, and it's so much. And honestly, none of us would survive an apocalypse. Like, and we're seeing that. Like, we're crying because we can't get to our gym, and because we've set up our lives in such a way that it's not conducive for survival. So I really thought about how, like, you find out something, and it's totally like, you're not it's not something that you expected. It's like you got slapped in the face with this out of nowhere. And so I compared it to, you're standing on one side of a river and you have to get to the other side. Like, you can either stay on that side of the river and freak out, and the river has strong currents, or you can find the bridge. You can get in the river and you can panic and flail and go down with the current and get your head bashed by a rock, or take your chances, with going into the river unprepared. Or you can take a moment and go, okay, how can I build a bridge? How can I build a bridge, and how can I get to the other side? Getting to the other side, it may not mean that you're necessarily extremely happy with what's going on the other side, but it's helping you to move forward, because whatever you're needing down the line is actually on the other side. So when you look at it like that, then it starts, again, it's the control. Okay, this is what I have control over. This is what I don't have control over. So let me make sure that I focus on what I do have control over and try to put aside what I don't have control over. We don't have control over what government officials have insisted we do. We put in our votes. That was where we had the control. We can go to council meetings, although not now with social distancing. But our vote is where we have the control. So put your control there. If you don't like what's going on, then vote. And so, yeah, it's just like, it's the same thing in bodybuilding. Lots of things are going to happen. Figure out where you have control, take the control, and move forward with it. And then ask yourself, am I doing it well? Whatever I chose to do, am I doing it well? If I'm not doing it well, if I don't like how I'm doing it, is it a problem with the actual actions that I'm doing, or is it a problem with the choice that I made? And maybe I need to let it go. It's kind of what I made a decision about with competing. Like, I think I need to let this go for a little bit.
No, I totally understand. I'm honestly thinking about sending her my resume to proofread, because I'm out of work for the next 3 weeks with my job. So who knows if I'm if I'm going to be able to go back there. But you mentioned it. I mean, yeah, you did downsize upper body. I mean, you still got the guns, as everyone can clearly see right now. Yeah, I mean, look at that, everyone. That's just 48. You're about to be 48, and that's just absolutely ridiculous. But
Shoulders.
yeah, and shoulders too. Yeah, this is just
sitting around eating bonbons,
yeah,
and burning my muscle.
Yeah. But you mentioned that you're not going to do physique again. So, and you, what's the whole story behind that? What was the moment that really made you decide, and what's that been like ever since you've made that decision?
I in 2008, 2018 was when I last competed. My dachshund Roxy had passed away 10 days before I was stepping on stage at the Arizona Pro. And I was looking the best I had ever looked. I continued with my prep. I think it was the only way that I could deal with everything at that point. That was like losing my child. I'm not married. I don't have kids. And that she was my child. And I'd had her since she was like between 5 and 6 weeks old. And she was my mini me. And she was with me wherever, just all the time. And A lot of my friends said, she was me just with floppy ears. I mean, if I were to turn into a dog, I would have been her. And I loved her dearly. And losing her, it was so sudden. It was a few months before she was going to turn 9. And it was just, one minute I'm talking to her, and the next minute I look over, and she's lying on the rug and not breathing, and she's gone. And it was really devastating. And I did the 2 shows. I did Arizona Pro. I came into that a little flat, but it was definitely still the leanest I'd been up to that point. And the look for women's physique has slowly been morphing into something different than what it began as. And you can really tell when you look at the top 5 or top 6 at that show and compare it with the top 5 or top 6 from the previous year, which I was in the top 5 the previous year. And even I had changed. It was a little eye opening when I was showing it to a friend of mine. I didn't change at the percentage that everybody else did, but I still had changed. And I wasn't sure that I liked it. But I went on and did the Legion Sports Fest, and got in the winner's circle, placed 6 out of 30 women. And now that show, I think it was a little bit more of a, hesitate to use this word because it has so many different connotations, or its cultural connotations, but more feminine. Just, it was a little closer to what women's physique was in 2017 rather than what it had turned into in 2018. The majority of the women that had shown up. So, of course, in that lineup, I am going to do better because I do feel that I bring a little bit more of the classic women's physique look, which is so weird to say, classic. It's like we need a vintage women's physique. And some competitors are going to hate me for saying this, but anybody who knows me knows I tell it like it is. And this is from my personal preference. I'm in charge of my body. So I get to choose what I do with it. It's my art, it's my shape. And if I don't like something, then I get to say, and I understand I might not place well because the judges' feedback consistently, every single show was bigger, wider back, bigger, thicker, wider back, harder hamstrings, harder glutes. And I mean, my glutes had striations, but I have the type of glute set. I have wellness glutes. And wellness glutes, when you're in in side positions, you can see the striations, but in the back pose, not necessarily can you, because they're so huge. And so they take over my hamstrings, and I've built up my hamstrings. But as far as getting the conditioning to show, it's a different shape that I have than anybody else. And then I'm 4'11". I'm 4'11", and so I received feedback from a couple of judges who don't judge me regularly, and they said, "Well, you're shaped like a box," and other things. And I understand why they say that because I am 4'11". And so I'm so short that my glutes take over, and you don't see how tiny my waist is because all you see are glutes and then upper lats and upper and rear delts and upper back. And so I just, it didn't matter how much harder I got, and it didn't matter how much bigger I got. I still was getting the same exact feedback. Same exact feedback. And this was for 3 years in a row, multiple shows. And so at the end of 2018, I was attempting to make my back thicker. Sandy had talked with me, and she said, "You need more depth." Because we talked about, I said, Sandy, I mean, no disrespect, but I have a narrow frame. We've talked about this before. And I have a very narrow frame, narrow bone structure. My muscle goes, like all the muscles on the top of my quads, the back of my glutes. So I am not a very wide person. My shoulders, I get the thickness in the shoulders. But I said, without abusing the drugs, how do you expect me to get a wider frame? And I don't know that that's necessarily the answer. And she said, well, no, I think if you just add some depth, then it'll give the illusion of being wider. And I said, okay, I can go, I can work with that. That I like when the feedback is that's what's wonderful about Sandy, when she gets that specific with you. And she's judged me since 2002. So I went back home, and and in dealing with grief and everything, and just tried to keep up my motivation and love for the gym, and really was trying to build the thickness in my back. And in December, January, February timeframe, I just found I didn't want to look in the mirror. I was crying all the time. I I didn't like my body. And I was talking with my coach, and I was just crying, and I said, I don't want this. I don't like it. I don't feel attractive. I don't feel feminine. I feel nothing fits me right. I don't know that I want to change this. I want, I'm fine with my lower body getting, a little bit thicker with muscle, because that's genetically what my body does. But I don't think I want this. And I was crying just so much, and my self esteem was just taking a huge, huge dip. And I said, I don't think I should compete. And he was like, no, you're not competing. um, and I said, I didn't want to go into a prep not feeling good about myself, because it was just going to get worse. In prep, you pick yourself apart. So why do I want to go into prep, and I'm already picking myself apart in the off season and hating how I look? And then what am I going to do? Use prep as a band-aid? How am I going to feel then afterwards? I'm going to continue to build muscle. I'm one of those, I don't really lose muscle going into a show, because I do lift heavy and all the way through. And I also don't go no carb. So it, I just said, I don't want to do the drugs that are necessary. I mean, I'm not natural. I'm on, HRT. I'm on hormone replacement therapy for health reasons, but I also extended it a bit further. And I went as far as I was okay with. And it was starting to get to where I don't really want to do that in my body. I like, at that point, I mean, 46, 47. Well, at that point, yeah, I turned 47. Well, I don't even know. See, this is what happens when you get older. You're like, I don't know. They all run together. What does it matter? It's on the downside of the hill. But I just was like, I'm in my late 40s. I don't want to do this. Like, what is this going to do for me? Why do I feel a need to do a show? I mean, for trophy. I mean, I've got trophies. I will never win a women's physique show. Not in this era of it. I will never. That's not being a pest. I'm a realist. Like, if somebody asks me how much, is the glass half full or half empty? I'm like, it has water in it. Like, what does it matter? If you want more water, add more water. If you are you going to drink it? What are you going to do with it? You going to water your plants? Like, I'm one of those. And it was just kind of like, why am I doing this? What do I have to prove? Who am I trying to prove this to? I'm never going to win a show. If I win a show in women's physique, that means that the atmosphere of women's physique is changing drastically. I have a good enough physique to end up in the winner's circle, barely. Um, I have a good enough physique to be almost. I'm a top pro, but almost top two, almost to the Olympia. I mean, in 2017, 2016, I missed it by 1 point. It was the closest I'm going to get. And at that point, I had also decided to take a step away and not chase that point in order to keep my health on track. And that was, I don't want my face changing. I don't want my voice changing. I don't want, I don't want my body changing to where I can't ever get it back to what it was. And so I made a decision, I'm going to step away. I'm going to see what they're going to do with women's physique. And the more shows I saw, the more I was like, it's not for me. It's just not for me. Now, when wellness came out, that is definitely for me. I was already downsizing just because I was dealing a lot with motivation of getting into the gym. The gym was I had lost that ability for the gym to be my sanctuary, my therapist, and it was becoming a I have to do this and I have to do it in a very specific way in order to get a very specific result. And so a lot of this was me recapturing what the gym used to be for me. And I said I would not get back on stage until the gym became what it used to be for me, and until I look in the mirror and am happy with my body on a consistent basis, or happy enough. I realized that I see, people getting ready for shows, or, whatever, posting stuff. And I'm like, yay for you. I'm glad it's not me. Like, for the first time ever, I never thought this day would come. I've competed since I was 26 years old. So for 20 years competed, and I never, ever, ever thought that I would reach this day of just like, very ho-hum about, I think about getting back on stage. A lot of people tell me for wellness, I should do it. Of course, now, I mean, definitely not this year. I'm not doing it, but I don't know. I have to ask myself, like, what do I have to prove? I walk around looking like I'm a wellness competitor, minus the boobs. So why do I have to stand on a stage? I've done this, 50 times. For what reason? It would be for ego. So I could, like, click check the box of having done every single women's division there is. I mean, I did bikini in the Galaxy Federation when I first started out. I did figure and female bodybuilding when I got into the NPC. Did both of those at the national level and did very well. And I did women's physique. So I've done, really, the only thing I haven't done is men's physique. And, that's, my chest isn't big enough to carry off just board shorts. So, um, but so what I really had to do a lot of soul searching and ask myself, like, why? What would I be getting from this? And also I just finished my master's degree in writing, so it's not like it's anything that's going to bring me any money. Um,
You could be the next J.K. Rowling. You never know.
I don't want to do that. No, I mean, um, it was a goal that I've had for a very long time. I'm in student debt for it. um, but for the past 2 years, I've been working. In the first year, I that was the thing was, I was in my second semester of school. I had just started my second semester of graduate school. Roxy died. I had the two shows. It's like that chapter was over. Um, and I have a lot of knowledge to give to people, and so I know that doing a podcast is like the trending thing right now. But one of the things is that I have a very unique story that I know everybody says they're special, and they are. But I truly have a very, very unique story. As somebody who won the Miss Natural Olympia in 2011, and then had to turn around, a few years later, and start taking testosterone for health reasons, and then to make it into the IFBB, and to narrowly miss the Olympia, but to have been on, the natural side of things and then the not natural side of things, and to really understand and have a perspective that I think a lot of competitors, especially competitors nowadays, everybody rushes in. They rush into shows, they rush into drugs, they rush into everything. And I blame social media on that. I think social media is a huge, huge factor for making everybody think they have to do what everybody else is doing. That if you're not doing what everybody's doing, then I bet everybody's feeling that like they have to do home workouts because that's what's going on in social media. So
I've been flooded on my Instagram page of home workouts these last 2 days. Yeah, it's getting to a point where it's almost everyone is doing them. But
it's getting ridiculous. It's getting, it's like, but the fitness industry is really oversaturated, and so it's kind of Yeah, everybody's jumping on that bandwagon. And I mean, home workouts are really important. We are at a point where we do have to think about things, but we don't have to make it more difficult than what it is. So it's kind of why I put up the video of me in lobby and just being really silly.
Oh yeah, and that's awesome. And one thing that you said last time that I really loved is that when you started bodybuilding, and you've said this in a few other interviews too. I mean, you started it because you wanted to be different, and now it seems that like everyone just wants to do it now. And just with Instagram taking off for a few years, and everyone just wants to be a fitness influencer, or they just want to do this. And what is your opinion of all that been like? Because I mean, it's completely changed to back when you got started, where it was definitely not even close to being the normal, to where now it's gotten a little bit more normal, and it seems like it is oversaturated.
It's very oversaturated. All that I can do is just continue to just be me. And I think it is maybe there reached a point where I was like, one of the things that I've noticed is when I've kind of perused different comments on different pages, and people will say, for somebody who I felt looked really good at a show and should have placed higher, they'll say, "Oh, she wasn't. You just need to get tighter and harder. She wasn't shredded enough." And it's like, I actually think we've become desensitized about how women should and can look on the stage. We've forgotten the early days of Corey Everson. That was what women's physique was supposed to bring back. And we've lost an ability for a woman to. I think that's what's wonderful about wellness, is that wellness does allow, though it probably is going to go the same route. Everything gets pushes the envelope, but it does allow for a very curvaceous, feminine muscle structure that you don't have to. You could do that. I mean, I could have actually competed in wellness. I wish it came out like years ago, because I could have done that when I was still natural. I could have totally 100% done that when I was still natural. And in fact, the early days of women's physique, I could do that. When I was still, I did do it when I was still natural. And again, I started taking testosterone because of health, but actually, in order to go anywhere in women's physique at the national level and pro level, it's really tough to do it naturally. I don't know. I have to say, I don't know anybody who is doing it at that, maybe as starting out amateurs. It, but saying that, like, I still, like, my clients, I tell them, you will never, ever, ever hear from me that I will never suggest that you get on something that you can't buy at the store or through Amazon. Um, I'll never suggest it, and I will never advise it. And That's not my place. And if somebody wants to do it, then I will talk to them about my experiences, and I will explain my opinions, but I will not be a part of how it's done. And I wish more coaches would do that. And so I just think that the a lot has changed, and so all that I can do is go, okay, well, what does make me different? Well, my writing makes me different. The way that I articulate my thoughts, the actual thoughts that I have, and the viewpoints that I have, and the way that I put them out there, so that others can go, oh yeah, that's how I feel too. I just didn't know how to say it, which is what I hear from so many people, that they, like, you put it exactly the way that I'm feeling it. I just didn't know how to say it. I don't have that word flow that you do. So and now I can actually say, well, I'm officially trained in this, but even though I was before, my bachelor's was English. So that's the thing that I'm wanting to do with doing a podcast, is just to tell my story and to share my viewpoint that is so different, and to help others kind of see things maybe a little bit differently, or to be able to go, oh, I didn't even realize that. Yeah, something was bothering me for the past year and I didn't know what it was. Now I know how to look into it and figure it out. And now I feel like I have control over my choices. So it's really easy when you compete for so long, it's easy to feel like, well, this is what I do and I don't have a choice. And stepping away is so hard. A lot of women step away when something bad happens, whether it's to their health, where they have, an injury. Um, and I'm thankful I didn't wait for that. I haven't dealt with an injury. My health is great. Um, and I get my blood work done twice a year. Everything is on par. Um, and I just, that's where I can be different because I can talk about things in a very different way. And I think it's my background because my background is not just bodybuilding, but it is with bodybuilding, it is I've gone through the different like waves of it and the different generations of it, having competed for 20 years. I mean, I chose the Galaxy Federation. It was only fitness and bodybuilding at the time. There wasn't even figure. And for those who aren't aware of history, figure came before bikini. So, and figure was based off of fitness. Figure was the physique round of fitness. But when I started competing, there was only fitness and bodybuilding. And so there were a couple of federations that did obstacle course competitions with the bikini round, and I chose the Galaxy Federation. But that was about the time, I found out about it because I was reading Oxygen magazine in its early years. I mean, I have the first issue of Oxygen. Like, that's how far back I go. And I just got my hair colored, so I don't have the gray to show, but I've got purples.
Well, and I love how open you are, and because especially in bodybuilding, I mean, I've never brought up anyone's drug use or anything like that in a podcast because I always figure it's their own business, it's none of mine. But I love that you're so open about it because yeah, it's the untold secret that a lot of people in the general public don't understand because so many people see these people online, they're like, oh, I want to look just like they look, and it's like, well, you don't know how they got to that look. You don't. First of all, they don't have the dedication and the drive that it takes to do that, and secondly, I mean, they just don't know what goes into that look for so many of those top level pro competitors. So I love that you're open about that because so many people I think need to be a little bit more because I think it can be misleading for a lot of people in the general public. But one thing that I think is interesting with all these people being locked up in quarantine, and a lot of people are saying now, even on Instagram and social media and Twitter, hey, I want to really get in shape now because I have some downtime to do it. What advice do you have for people who are looking to maybe even just get started doing stuff just because they have all this free time? Because not that many people have the access that I have where you have a gym downstairs basically, but what advice do you have for people just to get started, just doing basic stuff just so that they can get started, so when the gyms open back up, they have a good foundation where they don't just go into the gym like a lot of people do nowadays and they just tire themselves out the first few weeks and then get bored and quit.
So what I would say is create a schedule. So if whether you're somebody who you're lucky in terms of you're at um, in a career in which you can work from home. So I mean, your IT people, anybody. If I had been in my old job in education reform, I mean, I was working from home, on the computer for half the day with that. So there's if you work from home, then put into your calendar a certain slot of time. If you're just starting out, just 20 minutes. 20 to 30 minutes. I mean, don't go crazy. And it can be as simple as you can go for a walk. We're not being quarantined from nature. We're being quarantined from other people. And so you can go for a walk your dog. That is exercise. If you have a dog, or you can, pretend you have a dog and walk your dog, and you can or you can just go on a walk yourself. You can go on a run, whatever you want to do, whatever your knees allow, your back allows. But the very first thing is figure out what time of the day. It's just like studying or answering emails or anything. What time of the day do you work best? And so what time of the day do you think you will do activity best? And maybe it's in the morning. Get up, drink water, brush your teeth, get a cup of coffee, and then get out there. Set the timer and do it, and just move. I mean, if you're just beginning, just move. There's no wrong way. Don't overdo it. And then just each week, maybe add a few more minutes. And if that time of day isn't working for you, don't force yourself into it. Just move it to a different time of day. Maybe it's better at lunchtime. Maybe you need that, mental break in the middle of the day. Maybe you do better at night. But set the alarm. It's a meeting with yourself. Now, if you're somebody who, the people who are in the service industry, or where, they have something where it's actual interaction with other people that their job requires, and so they're at home and there's nothing they can do, then you really have to organize your day, and you have to, and I do think then that getting up and moving first thing in the morning is actually probably one of the best things you can do. Find YouTube videos. I mean, if you want to pay for it, there's tons of people that are selling their apps, but you don't even have to do that. I mean, the amount of uh, free YouTube advice that's out there is astounding. So go go and look for, if you want to do a lower body, calorie burning circuit. Google it, try it out. If you don't like it, turn it off and find something else. If you like it, do it again. You don't have to get too creative. And bands bands are not expensive, and they're very easy to carry. So, like, I have X bands. So they just sent me several bands just in time for this. And you can go to thexbands.com, and you can use my code. It's Jody, Jodi 10. So Jodi 10. But you can get bands from them. They do have a total at home equipment, um, workout, workout equipment, with handles and bands and a little bar. But you don't even need that. I see a lot of IFBB pros putting up different ways that you can make your own weights. You can grab 2-gallon jugs, one in each hand, and you can go do walking lunges outside with them. You can fill up I think one IFBB pro put up, you can stack books inside of a bag and lift that up and down. You can do, there's all sorts of things you can do. You can take soup cans, you can take all sorts of things. You can, there's just so much that you can do. I even like tested out doing like low squats and lifting my bed up and down. There's, nobody's going to see you. You're in your home. What, is your dog going to laugh at you? He already probably does. There's a whole faction of dogs somewhere in wherever they go, and they're all like, "Do you know what my human did that I saw?" They're telling the whole.
I put up with it because they fed me, but yeah, what my owner did was like, I almost couldn't deal with it. Yeah.
They probably love it. I mean, just judging from how he follows me around, he's like, "Oh, what are we doing now?"
Well, you mentioned your dog, and I gotta say, we have to see your dog. So can your dog make an appearance?
Oh, well, yes. Let me see if I can grab him. He's with his bone and a little. Okay.
Oh, that is so cute. I
Okay.
love the blue eyes. It has different colored eyes. That's cool. Wow.
Hello. Thank you. Oh, that's lovely.
How old is he?
He is almost 11 months.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so one of the other things, people who follow me know this. He has his own Instagram too. He had to have surgery. So I got him when he was 9 weeks old. I had come back from uh my third semester, well, going into my fourth semester of graduate school. So and I went down and got him, and brought him home, and I got him from a breeder. And I mean, I spent 6 months searching, trying to find a reputable breeder, and really, doing my due diligence, and making sure that I was going someplace where I really felt good and was getting a healthy dog. And then, ironically, with all of that, he ended up with a birth defect, And so a week later, I was taking him to the emergency clinic, and he almost died. He had to have major surgery. It was like a $6,000 surgery. And I had just gotten him. And so that was another thing. I was just like, thank goodness I had decided not to compete, because between Roxy dying and then, in school, and I mean, I was just going through so much depression after, once I was starting to deal with the grief of losing her. People don't really, people don't realize just how emptying it is to lose a dog, or to lose a pet. Um, and there's such they're a part of your existence. They're a part of everything. They follow you everywhere you go. It's, you feed them and you get coffee. I mean, it's like, taking an arm away. I mean, they're so much a part of your life, and you talk to them and you hold them, and they make you laugh. I mean, he makes me laugh every day. He's a very naughty boy. He's very smart. He's a dachshund, and so he's really smart and really stubborn. And but he's very smart, and he has learned all sorts of tricks and everything. He wants away. No, we're going to stay right here. And so it's like, no, I don't want to be on TV. I don't want to be on this podcast. No.
He's just thinking about that bone. He's just eyeing that bone, probably. Yep.
It's like, Mom, put me down. I want the belt.
What I love about dachshunds is, I mean, they're kind of somewhat. I mean, I'm a huge corgi guy. I don't have a corgi, but that's going to be the first type of dog that I get. Is that they're somewhat similar, because whenever I just see those small little legs, I just yeah, it's just
Yeah.
just ridiculous. But yeah, I remember when I lost my childhood dog too. Yeah, I was inconsolable for at least a week or two afterwards. They're just such a part of your life, and they're just, yeah, they are family, just like everyone that I've talked to with dogs says it. I mean, and I agree with it 100%. But before we wrap things up, I always like to ask guests now, I mean, if we were to talk to you again in a year, hopefully we can get you in at a year instead of a year and a half. What are some goals that you would like to have achieved? I mean, what are you currently working on? Or what, if we were to talk a year from today, I mean, obviously, hopefully, I mean, this virus will be gone, so everyone will be back to their somewhat normal lives. But what do you have in mind for this year ahead of you?
So I really do want to be full fledged in a podcast, and make it different. It's not about nutrition or exercising. It's more the mental and emotional aspects. It's really my journey. It's about my journey and the whole mental and emotional uh, journey that I've gone through in the 20 years of competing and 30 years of training, or working out, and how I've changed and grown, and all the lessons I've learned, mistakes I've made, and just how it has shaped my perception of everything. And then hopefully once I get through that, and then starting to have other competitors on who've also made a decision to kind of go in a different direction, because there is a certain mental aspect that you end up with, and you do get hindsight also. So since it is 2020, and so I definitely would like to have that actually happening. So I one of the things I'd wanted to do was to apply to community colleges, or apply to be an adjunct professor. Probably, I'm definitely very open to doing online teaching. I don't know if I want to go back into the actual public school system, though. Our state standard exam, the STAR test in Texas, was actually postponed. Maybe this is going to get us to go, oh, we don't need to test the heck out of our kids. The teachers, maybe we can trust the teachers. So I used to be a high school English teacher. So in case, before people are like, oh, what gives you the right to say that? High school English for 6 years, and I worked in nonprofit education reform and teacher training. So I used to train new teachers. So I am.
She knows what she's talking about, everyone, for anyone out there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I have more than
Yeah.
I've got muscle up in here. So and but this is all kind of up in the air. So I'm one of my goals during this time is to continue sending out resumes and everything. I just took on a part-time, I mean, it's just a few hours, but proofreading gig. So I'd like to do some copy editing and proofreading. I'll tell you, you social media people, who some of y'all write horribly. Like it's a turnoff. And I do mean that in a judgmental way. I mean, I think the fitness industry is so judgmental of those who don't work out and don't live their lifestyle. But I'm judgmental of if you are an American and your first language is English, you have no excuse for not using it properly. And if you're trying to sell yourself as a life coach, a motivational coach, if you're trying to sell your business, your goods and services to others, if you can't write well, then hire somebody to do your communication for you. And I am happy to do that. I will do it well. But our communication is a representation of us. I mean, if you had to walk around mute, you couldn't. If you had to like wear mittens and duct tape, mittens on your hands and duct tape over your mouth, and try to get people to understand what you feel and think and believe and want, and try to make money that way, I think you would then understand just how important the written word and the spoken word, how important it is, and how important it is to make sure that that it is everything is stated as clearly as possible. So that is one of my goals also, is to just continue along those lines of seeing a way that I can help others to be able to write better, to get their ideas across better, and figure out how to kind of move into that. That is a huge love and interest of mine, more so than train. I have clients I train. I will train people, and of course I teach posing. I love to teach posing. So if you need a posing coach, that is right up my alley. I mean, my background is teaching. I'm a lifetime certified educator in the state of Texas, but I mean, my love is writing. So
Yeah. And I always say I have a friend who is deaf, and they are like grammar, they are absolutely perfect. So they've told me the same thing that you say, where it's like, yeah, when our communication is basically, the written word, everything has to be perfect. And I've had a few times on job applications, I'm not gonna lie, where I've saved myself at the last second, but I was like, oh, I accidentally put you instead of YOU, and then it's so then this generation, yeah, has really struggles with that. So yeah, I would never want to be a teacher in this day and age, especially because with kids, they're so used to texting, and then if they type a paper, good luck, because now everything is online for a lot of classes. But you did mention that you're a posing coach, and before we wrap things up, I always love to ask for posing coaches because it's different from the people getting the posing lesson. But what would you say for women is probably one of the harder poses for them to learn?
oh wow, it just depends on what division they're in. I think one of the things is just understanding how to keep core control, understanding how to flare your lats without raising your traps. Um, just because somebody's a pro and does well at a show doesn't mean that they're posing well. It means that their physique was good enough to carry some not so good posing. So don't just copy somebody, have somebody actually teach it to you. Make sure you're hiring somebody who is an expert, um, not a self claimed expert, but a true veteran who understands. If you can get somebody, I mean, of course, yes, I am fully qualified. I can explain to you exactly what makes me qualified. If there were a certification course for being a posing coach, I would pass it. Um, but part of teaching posing is the word teaching. And just because somebody can do something doesn't mean that they can teach it. And if you question that, then think about your freshman calculus professor. And I bet that person was not a good teacher, but that person knew calculus. So just because somebody can do it doesn't mean that they can teach it. And also understand that your body type looks different from other body types. So make sure that you're not getting a cookie cutter approach to teaching posing. If a posing coach is all of their competitors all stand the same and look the same no matter what is going on with their midsections and their glutes and everything else, that might not be the right posing coach for you if you don't have the same body type that that person who's doing the teaching does. It's the same thing in management and teaching. See, I've managed staff too. So, and I've trained I've trained other managers on how to manage staff. You manage staff for the working and motivational style of the people you're managing. And you teach for the learning style of the people that you're teaching, not the other way around. So once that is understood and learned, then you have a good posing. I call myself actually a posing instructor rather than a posing coach, because I'm not there to rah rah and shake my pom poms and go, yeah, that looks good. Okay, let your air out here, move the foot like that. Yeah, you're good. But I actually want you to understand why I'm asking you to move your foot by an inch. What is that doing? I want you to understand absolutely everything that you're doing. And some people don't like that. They're just like, nah, I just want to be told I'm doing well. Like I want to walk away from this and feel good. But for me, it's like, okay, well then go get a facial. And you know, or you know, go to Nordstrom and try on a dress and have the person who's wanting to sell it to you tell you look great. I'm not here. You're not paying me money to tell you that you look great. You're paying me to give you the information that I have. And so that you can walk away and you learn and you know better and you create an automaticity on the stage that you don't even have to think about because you don't even have time to think about it. I compare competing to being in a car accident. I mean, it all goes in such slow motion, but it all happens so fast it's just a blur. And you really don't have time to think. And I don't want you to be I don't want your posing instruction to go so poorly that you slam the gas pedal instead of the brakes when when you've got to stop the car. I want it to be where you're like, okay, my body just knows exactly what to do because I have visualized this and practiced it, and Jody has put me through the ringer on this. So, yeah, I have a little bit different approach.
Yeah. And that's great. I mean, I've had all these different types of approaches, and just to hear them all, I mean, it's like with a lot of things in life, it's trial and error, and just finding out what works best for you. Like I always say on my podcast, it's like being sort of like a mad scientist and trying to concoct your own potion. Everyone works differently, so yeah, there's having the wide variety of options, I think, really helps. But I couldn't think of a better way to end this and inspire people than Jody. What are some of your best powerlifting lifts, so everyone here can get jealous and then want to go to the gym?
Well, and when we can't go to
Yeah,
the gym,
everyone will want to get healthy. Yeah.
are like powerlifters well, actually, powerlifters are like, woo, we can sit home and eat. Uh, so my best bench was so I was in the 114 class, 114.5 class the last time I competed. So my best bench was 154. I did 159, but one side dropped by an inch. Even though I pushed it up all the way by myself and no spotter had to grab it, nobody touched the bar. I didn't move my feet or anything, but I think it was like, I don't know if it was my left side or right side. It dropped by an inch so it wasn't consistent upward movement. So as far as a gym lift, so yeah, 159. As far as powerlifting counted, accurate lift, 154 for bench. And squat, 275. And I'm 4'11", and I don't do free bar squats hardly at all anymore because I wanted my obliques and my lower back spinal erectors to come down in size, which they did considerably. But and then 330 for a deadlift. That was my lower body is where all the strength is, and that's a lot genetics, and it's also a lot just consistent. I started working out with weights when I was 18. And I started off in powerlifting, which is why technique and form are the most important things to me, and that comes first. So I'm fine. You can do a lot with, you can make body weight feel very heavy if you utilize time under tension. And so keeping that in mind, hopefully that gets people to kind of stay a little bit calm. And muscle is memory, it'll come back. So even if, we're in this for 2 months, the idea is to maintain, unless you're somebody who's taking a lot of drugs, and you relied on that in order to gain your muscle, then yeah, you might lose a bunch. But if you're somebody who's been at this for a while and you truly focus on form and technique, even if you lose, a little bit of muscle, it's going to come back like that. And maybe taking a week or two off from the gym completely isn't a bad idea if you haven't done that in a year. I take advantage of this time and let your body heal and go do. It doesn't mean you have to sit around, laying in your bed. But maybe going for walks at a nature preserve, that can be just enough.
Yeah, well, I'd say I'm already embarrassed right now because I'm 6'3" and my 325 is my best squat. So she's a foot and how many inches shorter than me, and she almost has me. So this is just I need to definitely start
It's
working.
like,
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, I know. So when I have tall people on, we have tall people problems about the gym, but you have the exact opposite. But before we wrap things up, because you did mention it, and time under tension has just been a huge thing for me. I was aware of it a little bit before I started the podcast, but then after I had so many guests come on and just praise it, I really started it. But let's pretend that someone here, I mean, we might have people listening to this podcast for the first time with this episode. Could you explain what time under tension is?
so time under tension is the amount of time. Literally, it's exactly what it says. It's the amount of time that you are putting tension on a particular. So it's having some sort of force against the muscle fibers. So if you're doing a body weight squat, how from the moment you start to the squat to the moment you finish it, that's the time under tension. So if you want a lengthy, you can do a body weight squat and take a minute to do it, and you go down very slowly. You act like an elevator in an old hotel, and you can hold it and pause at the bottom. You can even do a couple of pulses at the bottom and then come up very slowly. Now, some people could be like, oh my gosh, that's going to hurt my knees. Well, not if your form is correct and you're getting your glutes to activate, your hamstrings, your quads, your core. So those are all things. You add a band to that, and then you have even more tension. So that's the essence of time under tension, and you can do it with absolutely anything. And really taking your time. Don't move like a jackrabbit. I mean, plyometrics, yes, there are some things that you have to move like a jackrabbit. You still have to keep your form. Maybe sometimes you're doing a burnout set. So you can do time under tension in a first set. And as you drop, maybe start off with a band and then you take the band off and then you continue with the time under tension. And then you finish out with like really, fast. Once you've gotten, your body is understanding what form you want from it. And then you can do, 20 burnout reps, and that will get you. And it might be good. We want our different muscle fibers, fast twitch and slow twitch. You want to activate both of those. And if you're somebody who's always, doing just 1 to 3 reps or 6 reps and just piling on the weight, it might not be a bad idea to get some of your other muscle fibers working. And you're going to come out a much more well-rounded competitor or athlete, or even just person in the long run.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I would probably get yelled at in the comments if I didn't ask, because I did for right after New Year's, I did a comment like, what is one body part that people want to improve on most over the year? And it was my 4 things that people could answer were arms, abs, back, and legs. And arms won by like 15%. And we saw that, obviously you have really great arms. What do you train for arms? Even though, like you said, now you're downsizing, but let's pretend that, I mean, the gyms weren't closed. What do you do for arms? Because a lot of people, especially guys, I mean, they basically communicate in arm language. I mean, that's basically how guys communicate to each other. But what advice do you have for people trying to look to grow their arms?
So I really just don't know how my body. Some of it is genetics. I mean, I'm a short person, but I have long muscle bellies, and so my muscle insertions are. You can see they're long. So it's just ideal for building muscle. So it's genetics, but I don't want my biceps or triceps to overpower my shoulders. I'd rather my shoulders overpower. So I have to be really honest. I mean, I can go. I'll train arms maybe once or twice a month now. But when I started off in college, I mean, I would do like 8 different bicep exercises and spend an hour, hour and a half just on biceps. I mean, because I thought that biceps were cool, and and they are, and everybody thinks they're cool on me. So if you put in the time early on, and especially I was young, so late teens, early 20s, and yeah, I mean, for biceps, you have to make sure you're not using your shoulders. Don't use your traps, and make sure that you're getting the biceps at different angles. And I also am a big believer of unilateral movements. So alternating dumbbell curls, hammer strength, hammer curls, get onto the incline bench, lean back. You can even do that standing. You can put your upper back against a wall and keep your lower back away from it. You can alternate from band to band, side to side. You a lot, and I'll change it up. Sometimes I'll do biceps by themselves. Sometimes I'll superset them with triceps. If you want your arms to grow, it's my opinion, and you know what they say about opinions, but it's my opinion that if you want your arms to grow, then do not put biceps or triceps on a day in which they're acting as a major supporting muscle for another. So don't do back and biceps because you've already been using biceps, especially if you're doing any reverse or hammer grip, close grip or reverse grip on your back movements, then your biceps are already fatigued and there's not much that you're able to tap into anymore. So I like chest and biceps together, actually, or I'll create an arm day. Same thing with triceps. Actually, you almost don't want to put triceps with shoulders either, because if you think about all of your pressing movements, any finishing portion of a pressing movement, whether it's chest or shoulders, is going to incorporate the tricep. It's why sometimes your triceps are sore the day after doing shoulders. You're like, I didn't even touch triceps. Yeah, but did you lock out your elbows? How much did you use the tricep as you were finishing out the press? So I like to put, for a while there, I was putting triceps with back, actually, because triceps don't get anything from back. So it makes for a really long workout. But maybe doing 4 really long workouts throughout the week works better for you than doing 6 shorter ones. Do what works for you. And just because something worked for you a year ago doesn't mean it's still working for you. If you're bored by it, change it.
Absolutely. Well, and I've always said too, triceps are the forgotten muscle group. I always say that's the one thing you should work on too, because if you're in a non-flex state, that's the one thing that's going to make your arm look better than anything else is a nice tricep. So yeah, a lot of people forget that, where they just go total biceps and it's like, well, it doesn't look that good unless you flex it really. So I always say triceps are the most important when it comes to arms.
Actually, so everybody is like, oh, what size are your biceps? And it's like, you do realize that the measurement is going around the whole arm. I'm not just measuring the biceps. So your tricep actually can make up to upwards of 2/3 of that measurement. So and if you are a women's physique competitor or men's classic or a bodybuilder, you do want to build your triceps, because actually then you get to see the difference between the rear delt. Once you lean out, that rear delt into the tricep, that curvature. The more curvature you create from one muscle group to the other, the bigger. That's why when you get leaner, people are like, "Oh, did you put on muscle?" And it's like, "No, I just got leaner." And people don't understand that. But it's that, because when you have curves, just think about when you're driving. If you drive through the flatlands of Texas versus you driving through all the hills in New Zealand, it hits you differently, that landscape. And it's the same thing. The more hills and valleys you can create in your body, then the more of an illusion you create, because bodybuilding is really just a magician's trick.
Mhm. Yeah, I always say the biggest myth and misconception that I love to bust is that, so many people assume that these bodybuilders are like the strongest people on the planet, but they don't realize that, it's a lot of it is for show, but they are stronger than the average person. But powerlifters, I always say with some powerlifters, and you understand this, some of them look like they probably never even worked out a day in their life. And then they go into the gym and they're benching, like 400 pounds, and you're like, okay, how is that possible? So yeah, a lot of it is an illusion. But again, you guys, we cannot thank Jody enough for coming on the podcast again, especially during this time. And I hope that we entertained you and made you guys worry about things a little bit less. But as always, make sure to wash your hands. And is there anything that you'd like to say before we wrap things up?
No, just thank you so much for having me on, and yeah, I'd love to be on again, in the next year.
Absolutely. Well, and let me know about your podcast as soon as that gets started. I'd love to give it a plug and a shout out on here. I mean, I love helping out my guests, and I'll leave the link to that band that she was talking about too, and codename Jody 10. I'll leave that down below when she was mentioning it. So anyone who's interested in that, go and check that out too. And as always, I'll leave a link to her Instagram page. And warning, you will be inspired to work out and get in shape. So that's just a little warning ahead of time. But again, Jody, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.